Where are you taking us?
Mexico.
What's in Mexico?
Mexicans.
When two great filmmakers get together in a close collaboration, the results can either be very good or it can devolve into a too many cooks situation fast. Two of the great independent filmmakers of the 1990s indie wave, Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, found a way to collaborate in a way that worked for both of them.
It's about an hour into the movie, all of a sudden, all these vampires show up in our film, and, the audience there's been no indication that will happen at any point in the movie until they just, in a blink of an eye, show up, and then now they gotta deal with it, all right?
Tonight, for our second to last Vampire Month episode, we're talking about From Dusk Till Dawn, the 1996 action horror film directed by Robert Rodriguez and written by and starring Quentin Tarantino.
The only things that I care about are me, that son of a bitch back there in the back, and our money. So you help us get across the border without incident. You stay with us through the night without trying anything funny, without trying to escape. And in the morning, I'm gonna let you guys go, all of you.
Tarantino had a role in Robert Rodriguez's Desperado, but From Dusk Till Dawn really gave them a chance to both work to their individual strengths.
Pulls out his thing. He's looking at the glass, man. He's thinking about the glass. He's thinking about the glass. He's glass. He's thinking about the glass. Glass. He's thinking about his dick. Dick glass. Dick glass. Dick glass. Be the glass. Dick glass. Dick glass. Dick glass. And then he lets it rip.
With Robert Rodriguez bringing in an expansive cast of characters, Cheech Marin, Danny Trejo, Salma Hayek, and Tito Larriva of The Plugs. And his love of absurdist stylistic filmmaking that centers around the Mexican border. And Quentin Tarantino filling the page with the referential action dialogue that at this point had made Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction huge hits.
Everybody be cool. You be cool.
Everybody be cool. This is a robbery.
Although this is Tarantino and Rodriguez taking on the vampire genre, the first almost 2/3 of this movie is a pretty grotesque action thriller that involves only man-caused horror. George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino star as brothers, the Gecko brothers, two career criminals on the run through Texas trying to be home free in Mexico. Clooney's Seth Gecko is a career bank robber with a big mouth and no compunction about using violence if he feels threatened. He has been broken out of prison by his severely mentally ill brother Richie, whose incredibly violent and sexually sadistic psychotic episodes are getting worse. After Richie rapes and murders their hostage, the Gecko brothers kidnap a traveling family played by Harvey Keitel, Juliette Lewis, and Ernest Liu. In a rare turn for Harvey Keitel, he plays a gentle father and former pastor whose faith has been taken from him after losing his wife in a horrific accident.
I was a minister.
Was, as in not anymore?
Yes.
Why'd you quit?
I think I've gotten about as up close and personal with you as I'm gonna get.
Let's just keep this friendly, okay, Pop?
Halfway through the movie, they make it to Mexico to a rendezvous point where the Gecko brothers are going to be taken to live out their lives in a nice Mexican village where the federales will never find them. The rendezvous point, the Titty Twister, a trucker biker saloon in the middle of nowhere, just happens to be a vampire bar.
All right, pussy! Pussy, pussy, come on in, pussy lovers!
The effects in From Dusk Till Dawn are done by horror greats. Tom Savini, the legendary prosthetics and makeup artist for George A. Romero, is one of the bar's patrons, Sex Machine, and Greg Nicotero, who go on to do Walking Dead amongst many, many other things, after being personally trained by Tom Savini in the craft on George A. Romero's movies, Robert Kurtzman, who actually came up with a treatment for From Dusk Till Dawn and hired Tarantino to write the script for $1,500 and a promise to do makeup for Reservoir Dogs. From Dusk Till Dawn was actually the first paid screenwriting gig Tarantino ever had, but it would not be filmed until 1995. By then, Tarantino was one of the biggest rising directors in Hollywood. And Howard Berger. The three of them ran a special effects company, K&B FX Group, which they had formed when they met working on Evil Dead 2 in 1986. They worked on all the vampire effects for the movie. K&B FX did all the blood splatter in Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and the Kill Bill movies. During the filming of From Dusk Till Dawn, Tarantino and Rodriguez, along with their producer, Lawrence Bender, got into a prolonged dispute with the IATSE.
They've got the whole Union Woody Guthrie thing on their side. Republic opinion, switches to them. And they say, Quentin's making $2 million and this grip over here is saving money to buy a motorcycle. All right, who's wrong? Okay, well, if you break it down to a soundbite, I'm an asshole. It's not a situation where they're targeting it because there's unrest and because people have been, crew members have been calling up and saying we've been abused or we're not being paid well or anything like that. No, they are going after us.
Over their decision to hire a non-union crew, and then a series of escalations that involve producers not giving the union a list of crew members. Tarantino and Rodriguez felt like they were being targeted as independent filmmakers whose ideas about the roles and boundaries of crew work were less set in stone. Labor disputes aside, it's not just the crew roles and boundaries that aren't set in stone in From Dusk Till Dawn. It's one of the greatest genre switch-ups in cinema history. Vampires coming completely out of left field, pulling together comedy, action, and finally horror in a way that only these two filmmakers could probably pull off. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are two more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Kristina Oakes is streaming on Twitch at Cosmopolitics, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. Also recently joined YouTube. She's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch and send her a coffee. I, of course, am your host who's telling you to be cool, but also do as I say, not as I do, Forrest Miller. George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino are brothers in this movie. Brothers.
Yeah. Someone ended up on the lucky side of that stick.
I mean, in multiple ways, because, like, you know, Clooney's the sane brother, and the other one's like both Quentin Tarantino and psychotic.
Yeah.
He is the worst of all worlds.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, well, welcome to the show.
It's Chaotic 3.
I wanted to ask.
We could do this if we wanted to. Whoa, mind blower.
This is even better.
I wanted to ask when you guys saw this. As like a first question.
Ooh,
and a follow-up to that. Did you know that this was going to transform into a vampire movie when you first saw it?
You want to go first, Kristina?
Yeah, I saw it when I was younger because I saw like the only thing I really saw was like like a special like I think I Love the 90s covered it on a VH1 at one point, and there was always that image always that image of Salma Hayek all sexy stuff, and I was like, oh, a sexy Salma Hayek movie. I'm in. But then I saw it was Quentin Tarantino. I was like, he's in this too, and directed it. But then when the genre shifted, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. See, I think this movie works best when you don't know.
When you don't know
it's going to transform into a vampire movie, because like KT didn't like it, and I feel like it's because she knew that it was going to transform.
Because everybody knows at this point. It's one of the great genre switch.
Yeah,
I saw it in the theater.
Of course, you did.
And I did not know. And I actually there was a ad campaign for it, and it said at the end of it, it's tagged with no interviews, just vampires, because Interview with the Vampire was really a big deal at the time. But that was after like the word got out about it. But I already was a big fan of Robert Rodriguez. We talked about this when we did Desperado.
Yeah,
like, I saw El Mariachi in like literally the one half semester of junior college that I took. Like I was showing El Mariachi, and it blew my mind. And so I saw Desperado like the second it came out, which of course immediately brought Salma Hayek to my attention. And then I saw From Dusk Till Dawn like when it opened in the theater in my like crappy town in California. And first of all, I very, very much recall of the many Cheech Marins, the Cheech Marin that gives his speech. It was like, wow,
yeah.
That seems like a lot. Like even then, as like a young man, I had forgotten that he plays multiple roles in this, but they got me because I was like, whoa, what? like it was like I knew it was violent. Somebody was like, oh, I knew it was violent. I knew Tom Savini was in it. He's like, hey, he plays a character called Sex Machine. It's awesome. I'm like, whoa. But it got me, and it got me good. And like I think some of the more.
Wait, I was gonna say it's right back to back with Desperado, right? Like
Desperado,
yeah, the year before.
So I saw Desperado like real early on too, because I saw El Mariachi, and someone's like, "Oh, it's a remake of El Mariachi with money," and I was like, "Amazing!" Like that's great because El Mariachi's also like it's great. I mean, he made it for like $6,000 or something. Right? It's incredible. It's a great movie. But yeah, I saw Desperado quickly because of that, and I basically goes, "Oh, is Robert Rodriguez my favorite director?" And then boy, would that be tested over the years. But anyway,
I like Spy Kids.
Yeah, see, Spy Kids growing up was the first Robert Rodriguez movie I saw, and then I kind of after those movies, like I didn't connect it to being the guy that's always, that was always working.
Mine are already twisted.
Because I went through obviously like every like teenager's Tarantino phase or like or college students. I went through
every young man's Tarantino phase, right? Yeah.
So I was watching everything I could find by him, and I remember on Netflix they really didn't have because I owned Reservoir Dogs like as a DVD. I owned Pulp Fiction as a DVD. And then I own Jackie Brown as a DVD too. I mean, that's my favorite Tarantino movie of his like early movies. And then I remember I was on Netflix and I was searching for like really trying to hunt down more Tarantino movies as like I was like 14 or 15 or something. And I remember I watched True Romance around that time. I watched I watched this, and there was one other one that I wanted to say, but now I don't remember which one it was. But it was right around the time also that like I think it was a couple years this was happening before Inglourious Basterds came out. And then
it absolutely was because I didn't see Inglourious Basterds till like a few years ago. Like I for some reason I just missed that one.
That's my favorite one.
I saw that.
Oh no, I saw Kill Bill. It took forever for me to see Kill Bill too, and I love Kill Bill also. But Reservoir Dogs, I saw that like real early on. Pulp Fiction, I saw that real early on. But also like I can't overstate this. I just kind of got out of the habit of watching movies for a really long time. And so which is why it's wild that like I saw this one and Desperado like in the theater. It's crazy to think about it and I saw it before. Like it's almost like it sounds like science fiction to describe it, but like word just did not travel that fast.
No,
like we're talking about like when The Sixth Sense came out. There was like a big like, hey, don't spoil the ending, which now would be like spoiled in 3 seconds. Now that is what happens with movies. Mm-hmm. But like for whatever reason, I was just very ready, willing, and eager to see. And again, I thought not only that Robert Rodriguez was going to be my favorite director for all time, I was like, this is going to be the best movie in the history of mankind. And I didn't even know vampires had anything to do with that. I thought it was a crime movie.
Yeah.
Why would I?
I mean, and it's such a Tarantino fucking movie. Well, I mean, like it has the Robert Rodriguez like stylistic flair to it, but it's such a Tarantino movie for the first half of it, right? Like,
to the core.
Yeah.
It almost seems more like it than actual Grindhouse, which I like. But it's that's the
other one I watched around the same. I watched Planet Terror and So that was like
where Eli Roth has the trailer for Thanksgiving, which he ended up actually making.
Yeah.
In the fake trailer section.
Oh yeah, about that.
I remember like around the same time as this, I also watched Dogma, and sure, Salma Hayek like in the middle of that movie too, and I was like, damn.
Yes.
It's like she was kind of like some of those like like Tarantino like almost like a muse.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I think she came to a lot of people's attention in Desperado. Really, and like which features that great scene where like a car crashes because they're too busy checking her out when they're driving by. Great.
Yeah. She's definitely Robert Rodriguez's like muse around this time.
And I think she did like telenovela stuff and things before that, but that was like her first big movie.
But like a little mini rant here. Salma Hayek is funny. She can do comedy.
She's great.
A lot of hot actresses are more than just hot. Give them something funny to do, and they're great. Like Eva Mendes is the same way. Sofia Vergara, like everyone's like, oh my, like
so you just think Latina women are funny, huh?
Well, or any woman in general who's got a very nice curvaceous body.
I think that's a really good point, Kristina. In fact, I think I made it on the Desperado episode. So I completely agree with you that it took years for her to be able to like do a comedic role. It's like, no, you're just gonna be the hot chick.
Yeah. Well, she was also in Spy Kids.
Well, sure. Yeah. I was not the target market for that when those came.
Yeah. See, I think Kristina and I literally were.
You were like right down the line, the perfect target. I was like, why would I watch that? Is like what
It's like James Bond for kids.
And I just never, I don't have kids, so I didn't never go back to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's understandable, but I think it's actually a really smart way to get like people into like a slick indie filmmaker. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
oh, like
Yeah.
if you give them like a crazy kids movie,
Yeah.
that next generation of kids is gonna be like, yo, you know about Robert Rodriguez? Like, that's how you do it.
Which the bar for kind of making an interesting kids movie, like something that the adults can enjoy too, I feel like it's like a lot lower than a lot of people realize. Like it's sort of like this drivel that they seem to just put out to parents. Like I would be insulted. I'm insulted. I'm not even a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just insulted because it's bad. So anytime they do something that is good, like people are going to be like, oh yeah, Spy Kids, that's a good one. Let's do, or whatever, whatever the new latest one is.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's kind
Three
of cool that,
people
like,
without kids talk about kids movies. Coming up next, the movie extravaganza.
We are. I'm a Disney adult. Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I am
Right
very
there.
much not.
I'm a nerd adult. I'm a DC, Disney, MCU, whatever.
I love those brands. No, I like that Salma Hayek became like kind of like one of the icons of this era of like indie filmmaking. Like she was in everything.
Oh,
And
she
then-
was. Yeah. Man.
They even kept up to like Frida, like when they had her play Frida Kahlo.
Yeah.
I don't
We
think
don't talk about that film.
I don't think it's, I don't think it's fair when you look at her and then you look at actual pictures of Frida Kahlo, but
Yeah. But,
They really wanted. They really. Harvey Weinstein was like, "You're hot. You're sexy. Let's go. Let's do it." She's like, "That's not what she was about." But
no. Well, and she was more than that, and proved that later. I mean, her, even like with voice acting stuff, right? Like, I mean, the second Puss in Boots movie, which is actually fantastic. Her and Antonio Banderas are both in that.
So
great because they have that chemistry of just people that like they've worked together in so many different films, and they just like work so well together. It's great.
yeah, it comes natural for them as well. You know what's also shocking to you is how surprisingly good Clooney's in this, because a lot of people are like, oh, he's the guy from ER or whatever. I'm like, but give him comedy. He's really good. Like when it comes to comedy, I mean, you like Oceans, you know.
He's that classic trope of like a slick talking straight man.
Yes.
You know, because there has to be like either the comedic foil or like the person next to him that's like so psychotic and over the top, like Tarantino is in this.
Yeah.
And he does right down the line, like every single line out of his mouth is so witty and so snappy. And this movie, he absolutely crushes it. Sometimes it's hard for me to get lost in like a George Clooney role and not be like, oh, that's George Clooney. So there's there's a few movies like this movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Hail Caesar. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah. I was about to say Hail Caesar. That's like my favorite one.
And like Tarantino, like they can bring him out of his shell, I think, with that kind of dialogue that like it's hard because he's just like you look at him and you're like, that's fucking George Clooney.
It's professionally handsome. Well, Clooney has the same problem Salma Hayek has, which is just like he's too good looking.
Yeah.
So that's all the people want him for. You know.
Yeah. That's why
it's a good problem. I have the same issue actually.
Well, that's why you see people like Dan Stevens and James McAvoy taking on these weird, kooky, psychotic type of characters, because everyone's like, okay, they're good looking. They can be romantic leads, but they also have like there's something about them that's kind of creepy now too, because they're playing all these roles that are more challenging and more fun for them.
Well, and we can call that the Brad Pitt basically, because he's the one that kind of started doing that. Like, oh, I can do more than just this. I'm going to be the most crazy, wild SOB you've ever seen, and the craziest, most wild role ever, because he wanted to prove that he could actually act. And turns out, like, which is wild, because that actually started the whole. Because it used to be character actors and leading men, different things.
Yeah.
And then it became like, oh, there's a leading man who's also the character actor, and now every leading man has to be a character actor, or what are you even doing?
Yeah. Or even look at Angelina Jolie. Like everyone's like, oh, she's Jon Voight's daughter. I'm like, yeah, but it's John. I'm like, she's more talented than him and a better person overall. Like she actually, her most recent film, she's playing an opera singer. She's like, yeah, I actually sang myself, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Huh?
Burn After Reading, by the way, that's the one I was trying to think of. Burn After Reading, Clooney's really good in that too.
I also remember this movie, like I think is utterly forgettable, but I remember him in Men Who Stare at Goats, and I feel like that movie. Yeah,
this is me staring at goats right now.
Christina's actually staring at goats. Audio listeners. Great concept, kind of okay execution.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like it was fine. It was good.
Yeah. But so Clooney's great in this, and it's crazy to see him with like the black kind of hair, like not like the
the neck tattoo and the whole like.
Who are you, George Clooney? You're not Rosemary's nephew.
Right, exactly.
He's like
Rosemary Clooney.
Not my nephew.
as such a scumbag just by that neck tattoo. I mean, maybe that's like a judgmental thing, like that we still kind of have as a culture. Like, if a guy has a neck tattoo, you're like, yeah, I don't. This guy is like gonna do something. Like he's gonna.
He didn't have a face tattoo.
Well, that's exactly. That's it. I've decided I'm unemployable. No, but like you just like that looks like someone who's like a hard dude, right? Like you don't want to mess with that guy. You're like, whatever that guy's up to, I'm gonna be doing something else way over there.
Oh yeah, George Clooney in a neck tattoo. You definitely don't want to mess with that guy. So threatening.
He might tell Biden to drop out.
He showed him the neck tattoo, and Biden's like, "Whoa, Jack, whoa,
whoa, Jack. I forgot your name, so I'm calling you Jack."
Exactly.
Yeah, but like
Kristina gets
Jack Clooney.
It's like it's
Jack
incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an incredible role for him, and it kind of harkens back. It feels like to like those kind of slick old Hollywood days in some ways. Like his character is just like slamming out those one-liners so fucking fast that you could barely even keep up.
Like on the Letterboxd one-liners later.
Right. Exactly. No, there's a lot of rat-a-tat with this. There's a lot of classic heist film, and then also kind of the mismatched buddy sort of movie, road to whatever. But then also there's the creepiness of the fact that Quentin Tarantino plays a deplorably horrible character, which...
No different from himself.
Okay, well, a lot of people felt exactly that same way. I don't think that's true, and I think he did a fantastic job of it. He did too good of a job with it because at the time he was like kind of a punching bag for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. And people are like, oh, well, he's not even acting. He's just an asshole. You know, like, okay, well, like that's one way of looking at it. Or he created like a really good bad character and was so good at it that it's hard to like think of him as anything other than that.
I mean, he's willing to literally put himself in this crazy fucking position where he like has himself on screen with the like escaped sex offender thing and the glasses like really make him look like a sex offender, and he's on TV, and then like it's like this connection that's like that takes some balls, because that can get completely connected to like your own persona or whatever, and especially with him because he's so known for like the violence and like the like the sexually explicit kind of things in his movies. So it's so easy.
Well, he wrote it here too. Yeah. So he knows the exact character of these, and he knew to take the risk of no, I'm going to like lean into this. And that's why, because again, Kristina, I was the same way where I was like, Tarantino, is he even acting? Am I right? Like when it came out, because it just like, that was the thing with Quentin Tarantino. He just had like that really
sleazy
kind of bad reputation. And the fact that this guy's probably a bit of a scumbag, right? But it's like, is he a killer and a rapist? No, he's not those things.
Like every director has their own thing. I mean, I'm not going to mention some directors that are only filming
you
stuff
shall
in
not be named.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, the funny thing about Tarantino is that he's going to be like, his legacy is kind of preserved because he's now completely overshadowed by Harvey Weinstein being such a fucking psychopathic monster that the little things that Tarantino has done like pale in comparison to that.
Yeah.
but I also remember just hearing like going through, oh well, like when that when the actual Me Too allegations going out, I can't wait to see it until Tarantino gets uncovered. It's like, well, you just don't like him. That doesn't mean he committed sex crimes.
Yeah.
Like because you think he would have.
Who doesn't? You know.
Man likes what he likes. Like mark the time, 24 minutes 50 seconds. Like who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
He has cancer now. We can celebrate. He's gonna die in prison. Okay.
I did see that yesterday. Like
that.
So the sequence, obviously, that everyone talks about the most is the Salma Hayek and Tarantino sequence and during that dance. But I completely forgot about the other one where he's sitting in the van and they have a Dengue Woman, like the Dengue Woman blues playing, and the shot of starting with the feet going all the way up Juliette Lewis's body, and literally the most creepy fucking way. And then the close-up shot of Tarantino's face as he's like sweating in the back of the van, like. It's a scary, like it's a terrifying scene in that moment, and like the human element of this is so much more terrifying than like once the vampires show up, you're like, oh well, at least Tarantino's been taken out, like
at least the worst monster in the movie is already gone.
You're good.
Well, and that's one of the critiques of this film is that like it pales in comparison. Matt, he literally gets Hayek to massage his face with her feet. That's how you get ahead of this cancel nonsense. Own your kink. Yeah, man, respect. Yeah,
But yeah, it's like
good for him.
So depraved and so deplorable. His actions, like it like the scene where he murders the bank, like the hostage that they take, right? And you see her in the trunk as they're driving, and then Clooney gets back with the big Kahuna burgers, which I didn't notice the last time watching it. Really the Pulp Fiction Kahuna burgers, but he gets back and she's clearly dead, and they flash it on screen. And like I remember my stomach literally churning when I saw that like the first time. Like now I know it's coming, obviously, because I've watched this movie like I think like 6 or 7 times, but like the first time I watched it, I remember being like, oh fuck.
Well, it's shocking, and it's meant to shock, right?
Yeah.
And this is before we had as many anti-hero stories as we have now. This is pre-Sopranos. This is pre-Breaking Bad. This is pre any of those things. So it was, it was like one of those things where it did hit, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah,
and it hit at a point where Quentin Tarantino, as a person, a lot of people were at him for different reasons. So like, again, I actually think it's very brave of him to play this role, and I think he does a great job playing the worst dude ever, who should never be emulated or in any way, shape, or form.
They're gonna rehabilitate him. Be like, that was a cool guy.
You know what's
He endorsed Harris, actually, so he's gonna be on the trail. Sorry, go ahead.
You miss you miss idolizing them starter pack or whatever.
Right.
His character from Dusk Till Dawn is never on those things, and I'm like, where is his picture at? You missed the point by idolizing them. Like, why?
That's true. Maybe because people just don't remember how like odious he is in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people just remember the vampires.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have a Danny Trejo vampire, Cheech Marin vampire,
Yeah, I mean,
Salma Hayek vampire, Tito Lariba vampire. I think that but going into, I guess, doing this kind of almost like begin like as 2 parts, because I feel like the vampires, like I want to talk about them after we talk about like the first section of this film.
It's like 2 movies.
Another part of it that I think is really incredible is Harvey Keitel's performance. Like, you don't expect that much heart.
It was after Bad Lieutenant. That was intense.
Well, I mean, I guess like you get you get a lot of heart,
and Cape Fear, right? And like not Cape Fear. What am I thinking of? Whatever. The point is Harvey Keitel, like,
Reservoir Dogs.
This is Reservoir Dogs. Sorry, it's the first time you ever see him be a character like that I ever saw him anyway. Maybe his other roles that he played before that, but I didn't see the piano till like last year. You know what I mean? Like why would I watch the piano? Like I mean, I guess there's this character in Thelma and Louise, right? But like, I mean, mostly it's like when you see him, it is like, badly, or he's like the wolf, right? Pulp Fiction, another Tarantino one, where it's like he's either a badass or like a guy you don't want to mess with or whatever. And here he's just like a loving, caring dad who's lost faith, and he does a great job of it. He really does.
It's interesting to see like the performance in Reservoir Dogs. Like he has that side to him throughout that, where he's taking care of like Tim Roth, like like the Mr. Orange, like the young kid, and the entire movie is taking care of him, and you're like, damn, this is like an actually caring person. But in this, obviously, like there's no, he's just kind of the I wouldn't say like lawful good, but like neutral good, kind of, you know what I mean? Because he's away from the Lord or whatever. But
we also got to understand what was going on in Harvey Keitel's life at the time. He had a daughter with Lorraine Bracco. They were in a relationship for almost 10 years. And they had a big, ugly custody battle that put Lorraine Bracco in debt. So that's why she basically accepted the Sopranos role. So like maybe he was trying to play like these softer characters at the time because of the fact that he... Yeah, like not rehabilitate his image, but like,
so he could show up in court and be like, oh, check it out, I'm a great dad. Haven't you seen me in From Dusk Till Dawn? Yeah. Wait, don't watch From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Before you pass the sentence, I need you to watch From Dusk Till Dawn. All right?
Yeah.
No, but stop it when they get to Cheech Marin talking about
stuff. But so that's a lot of people don't realize that him and Lorraine Bracco had almost like a 10-year relationship, and they have a daughter together. And there was a little bit of a very nasty custody battle, like just it was bad. But like this was around the time he was doing these movies.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, she was in Goodfellas, the daughter.
I know. I that I did know somehow, but I didn't know that they had a custody battle.
Yeah,
I think that it's interesting narratively too to have him be like a man of religion, that has lost his faith, but then like when the vampires show up, I know we're talking about the first part, it's like, no, he's actually their best weapon, because like a squirt gun becomes like, a badass weapon when there's when you have someone to bless the water and make it holy water. But
I love the holy water balloons too. Like,
yeah, oh, absolutely, fantastic. Yeah. But I love that. I think that's done well because I think that could be overdone, where it's like, come on, check it out. You're the guy, and here are them. Like, and there isn't any of that because it's almost like you're like, oh yeah, he is a preacher. I forgot about that.
Yeah. The most not Harvey Keitel role ever.
He just sounds like a nice man in a Winnebago.
Yeah. You almost don't have time with that because everything happened so fast in the last. Because it's the final third, right? Like, because I think I was trying to time it out. They get to Mexico halfway through, and then they get to the bar. But then there's such a long sequence in the bar where you're kind of getting, situated, and you're like, oh shit! Like, number one, there's a lot of fucking truckers and bikers that just hang out at this bar, like this sleazy dive bar in the middle, like nearby the Mexican border. But like number two, like you get situated for long enough, and you have George Clooney finally like starting to break. Like his mind is going after Tarantino's mind has kind of been going the entire movie. It's like it kind of hits him that like I don't know, he has to self-sabotage. He's like he really is like a pathetic character. Like he's that pathetic character that's always, and it's a classic. There's a classic
ends up being jailed right all the time because that's part of the self-sabotage. And what is it? It's over like Trejo's character like dissing him. Where it's like, did he really diss you? Like he was.
Or no, it's the guy behind him puts his hand on him. And he's like, oh, yeah,
the slight itself doesn't matter. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, and that's where you kind of get an idea towards George Clooney's character's psychopathy. In the same way that it's like, it manifests differently than his brother, but it's like, oh no, he's nuts too. He's just nuts in it, like in a way that's more easily presentable as in a friendlier package, and then it has more social skills. He's still like a real SOB.
Well, it's the mob thing too, where it's like, the only thing that they can really not tolerate is like a lack of respect, and it's like that can get to your head so much that like
respect at all.
You're constantly throwing away your entire life in situations where you could finally succeed because you self-sabotage because you're like, I don't feel like this person was respectful enough to me, and you just bug out. And it's like
Joe Pesci and Goodfellas, right?
Yeah,
like that, the whole like shine box thing.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
My fucking shine box.
Yeah, I mean that's a perfect example of that deployment, which ties into like toxic masculinity and these growth arrested killers that are still have like the mindset of like 12-year-old boys in a lot of ways.
Well, and that hits you with such like a that if the two of them got to El Rey, that would last 5 minutes before they were either gunned down by the cartel or like kicked out of the book. Like they're not, especially Tarantino, because he's literally like losing his mind and actually hallucinating these women, like being like, like, can you please eat my pussy? And then all of a sudden, like he realizes that he's raping somebody, and it's like I think it's like it must be like schizophrenia or something. But like it's a classic duo of like the one guy is completely mentally ill, like it's the Bunch of Men kind of thing, where it's like the one guy is mentally ill.
Yeah.
But also is like so psychotic that it's like not saying that he's blameless because he's obviously not, but it's like pathological. Like the one guy is completely pathologically violent, and the other guy kind of has to constantly like have his back and like defend him because there's that brotherly relationship there.
Because one can more or less exist in normal society, presenting in normal society, and the other really can't. The other's like you're just waiting for him to like say something deeply inappropriate, or again, didn't he's probably on the spectrum, right? Like is how we would like look at it now. Like when he does like the thing of like, oh, he was doing this, he was like trying, he's mouthing help, like that like earlier in that scene. That first scene's amazing. By the way, when the popcorn is popping. In the first scene in the slaughter in the gas station, amazing. I forgot all about that scene. Actually,
it's something that Tarantino does so well, also, where he like, and I'm not saying that nobody ever did this before because they did, but Tarantino was such like an early kind of progenitor of like the thing where you set the stage with the two characters that aren't going to matter. They're going to get killed immediately, but they're having this whole conversation. He's talking about how like it's the cop, but he's talking about how he was sick because he went to the place and there was a mentally challenged person making his food, and like you get the feeling of the world you're in based on this conversation that guy, like that Texas Ranger is having with the guy that owns the liquor store, and neither of them are going to matter in 5 minutes, but like
which is they used to call that, maybe they still do, the Hill Street Blues syndrome, where you get like really close identify with the characters, and then they're like killed off immediately, and you're like, what? Because that's what they did. The first episode, they centered on these characters, and they killed them off at the end of the episode. And that's what that we're doing, is saying, hey, this is gonna be a different kind of show than something you've seen before,
or like a false protagonist situation too, like in some horror films as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I think you're right. That's been kind of adopted in multiple different ways, but I think it's also, Tarantino does good dialogue, right? Like, you either love or you hate it, but like it's well written.
Well, it throws you into this universe, and all of his films feel like they take place in the same kind of universe. At least his early films, I think now.
To the point that, like in that scene you're talking about, Forrest, like it's scary when you see them by the freezer section and they're holding the women hostage. Like, oh my god! Like you kind of like forget what movie you're in because you just like wrapped up with like whether or not is he gonna call him the R word? Like you're wrapped up with all this stuff that doesn't matter.
It kind of reminds me of like a female like counterpart could be like Diablo Cody, because when she writes dialogue, it's like she has her own universe, which is true because she even says like Jennifer's Body and Lisa Frankenstein are like set in the same universe. So it's like there are other directors and writers out there who try to do the Tarantino thing in their own way, but it just depends on people understand it or want to understand it. And I feel like a lot of people either understand or refuse to understand Tarantino's films that way because of the dialogue.
Well, and I think,
and the good side of that, you have something like David Mamet, and the bad side, you have The West Wing.
Yeah,
and Sorkin.
Well, there's like a referential quality to a lot of Tarantino's. Not so much this movie, I guess. Although at some points, but like there's a referential quality to his dialogue in so many of these movies that really, I mean, number one, it like full Gen X, comic obsession with him and film obsession, and I think like generations after that have all maintained that too, because I think it's so ubiquitous now because of films like Tarantino. But it's like this constant barrage of references and dialogue and things that have nothing to do, and it's like that makes for a more naturalistic feel. Like even if Tarantino's movies are like way out of there, like at some points, like way absurd, like it still makes for a more authentic feeling conversation when people are talking about something like even like Madonna's like a virgin in the beginning of Reservoir Dogs, like that whole scene.
Right. Well, I'm thinking about something like Pulp Fiction too, like the influence it had on filmmaking and filmmakers. It was it was pretty dramatic. Like without that kind of modus operandi, you probably wouldn't have had a Natural Born Killers or something along those lines. Like it was just sort of like, well, how can we take this concept that Malick did in Badlands and take it for a new generation that's like jump cuts and like sex, lies, and videotape.
I've said this before, but when I was taking film classes at SUNY, like the professor had banned from the seminar class and from like our final two classes, he completely banned guns or like any kind of violence, not because violence, you shouldn't show violence in movies or as a class, but because he just started teaching when Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction had kind of just come out, and every student was making their own version of that for like years and years and years.
Oh my
God, yeah. Student film was like, this guy is Pulp Fiction, and he was like, I can't do this anymore. Like
you gotta ban the format, right? Exactly. Yeah. You're not allowed to do that. This from the comments. I liked Keitel's performance in this, losing his faith after the loss of his wife, but I was wondering why that love and loss was more focused on his character and not the rest of the Fuller family. That's a great question. Because it obviously, Harvey Keitel gave up his vocation and calling, right? And has having this incredible, like, hey, let's just like go on this walkabout, more or less, to figure it out. But it does seem like it hit him like way harder than it hit the kids. And then the follow up on that is maybe it's just on my end, but I wish this was more fleshed out for Juliette Lewis and Ernest Liu to build up the characters of Kate and Scott. Hard agree. Hard agree.
Yeah,
I think Kate kind of being like of the age where she's kind of becoming an adult, but not like, I feel like that's hard to write for like somebody like Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, like a young girl of that age coming of age.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they're like, we're not even gonna really
it's not exactly what he's known for writing. Yeah, you're right.
That Fear sort. I mean, she got to kiss Robert De Niro, and she was like, "I got a crush on him after that." I'm like, "You got to Robert De Niro, of course." But like,
but Cape Fear is obviously like a remake of like the 50s
original.
Version. Yeah. So like there already was. I'm just saying like there already was elements there that they could build up on for like a modern audience. In this case, Tarantino's creating something from the ground up.
Yeah,
I do like though. I feel like there's got to be a spectrum of Southern accents. On one side, De Niro and Cape Fear, and on the other side, like Harvey Keitel in this. Like,
On the scale to Harvey Keitel, Robert De Niro Southern accents, like.
Oh man, we could remember like the Bad Lieutenant scale, but we'll have like
the
Foghorn Leghorn scale or something. I don't know what we want to call it.
Let's do it.
But I think Kate gets a little more fleshed out for sure. But then also, like there could be more, but also there's a lot that they're trying to fit in here too. And other than like, hey, she's being sexualized and she shouldn't be, like. Like what is there really to, like what room would there be to do that with? Scott barely gets a character at all. His most character development is it's cool that they're letting me drink in this weird bar, and oh my god, hot chicks.
Hey,
you find
out he's not Japanese, he's Chinese.
Yeah, well, that's about as good as you get from his background, right? Yeah.
I love the delivery of that line where he's like, he says the J. The bad word, the slur, and then he's like, what? Your son you don't look Japanese. He's like, neither does he. He looks Chinese, and it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I know it's
poorly aged things, right, guys? Don't we love the 90s?
It made like even at the time it was like ooh, but it was also like it wasn't as big of an ooh as it was now. But it's still, believe me, at the time it was kind of like flinch like someone slapped you. Oh.
So, like getting into the vampire part of it, though, I have, I gotta decide which one to.
By the way, Cheech Marin he's a border agent, right? Yeah. He's shall we call him the pussy caller? I don't know what that job title would be.
I was gonna say he's Gomi from.
Please, Mr. Pussy is my father.
He's like a Breaking Bad character, pretty much, when he's the border agent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Uh-huh.
And then, like we see him later as well. 3 roles. I forgot all about that, weirdly. But
so I found online. I found like this thing where they were going through kind of the effects of it. They did a lot of like effects videos, and so this is they're talking about Salma Hayek's vampire body.
Upcoming, you'll see. Some of the other characters like Fred Williamson and Tom Savini. But here's some of my stock characters I used in Desperado. I wanted them to come back and make it look like they were died in Desperado, but they came back as the undead. And this one is the Ninth Thrower. He even has the same costume. Had the same costume designer. So just give him another vest because he likes to show off his tattoos and his muscles. He's like a 55-year-old man, and he still looks in incredible shape.
Lonely dog, bow your head.
Was seeing Tom every single day because I hadn't seen Tom in a long time and spent a lot of time with him. There's a lot of the illusions and gags that are used in films today. Tom came up with some pretty neat, inventive stuff. It's all like magician misdirection. You'll be looking at one thing and then of course something else happens.
This is what happened exactly. So we just came up with our own Battle 1, Battle 2, Battle 3, and scheduled it that way just so we could keep track of what happened. We actually shot this the second week of shooting.
So there we go with the fake hand getting stabbed into the table.
His real hand with a...
Actually, I think we used my hand to double for Quentin's because we didn't actually have a hand cast.
I don't think there's enough blood.
Little squeeze bulbs that we would constantly fill with blood and just start spraying up in the air. And I'll tell you, when Quentin was going full force, I thought I was going to get stabbed at one point because he was beating the shit out of me. I think he actually punched me once by accident because I was right underneath him, sort of spraying blood up in the air.
No, he's going nuts. And I'm right over his shoulder, and then when he's stabbing down on me, I'm right under him. So the cameraman always gets the close calls, too.
Either you or me.
We're both trying to stay out of each other's way. And here's our 3 stages on Salma's makeup, but you can see him a little closely if you slow down on him.
The mid stage was actually a one-piece pullover mask that got glued down, and she had different stages of fangs and stuff as well.
I need polygrip.
And the move on each stage so that we can morph that all together so it would look a little more organic and not so computery. We wanted her to look like a snake, because I think it was specified that she turned into a rodent in the script. And we thought, well, it makes more sense now that we added a snake dance. Let's make her more like a snake.
There were actually 3 stages that we did that we morphed in between. There was a middle stage which was actually really beautiful. It looked like a cobra. It had sort of a fan around it.
Real big head, a fan around the head.
And then
freeze frame in slow motion, and you can see that.
And then the final stage, of course, which is much more conforming to Selma's features. And it was amazing how beautiful she looked with that makeup on.
Damn. Thank you. You got the bottle of that bottle.
She was actually pretty ugly with that makeup on. I mean, it was beautiful to us, but no one would talk to her. She felt what it was like to just be like a plain girl. She's so used to walking around and getting attention everywhere she goes that when no one paid attention to her or talked to her when she had the makeup on, she felt really lonely.
She didn't like that very much. Generic makeups and contact lenses that we did on a lot of dancers in terms of fangs and teeth. Every girl would come and go, I want to wear fangs, I want to wear teeth, because they thought if they had that they'd have a better chance of getting. It was funny because we had a lot of generic we had from other shows, from Pulp Fiction and Tales from the Hood, and that's Kevin O'Connor's body. Kevin O'Connor's a good friend of ours, was in Lord of Illusions. We used his body that we did a cast of for Color of Night.
Tom Savini doing this Jackie Chan bit, he'd called and said, hey,
I want to rip a guy's arm off.
Oh man, Sex Machine. We must speak about Sex Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
First of all, I love Tom Savini being like, of course, for people, I don't know if you're watching this show, I don't know how you would not know this, but Tom Savini, of course, is one of the great physical effects horror masters.
Well, so when we were talking about Dawn of the Dead, I think we watched that clip of Tom Savini, and if I remember correctly, they were making like homemade explosive kind of things in in the basement, like making Dawn of the Dead, and they just had Greg Nicotero, who was now he's like the great effects guy that was trained by Tom Savini, and like he was hanging out, and he was like a kid, and he was hanging out in the basement with them. And they're like, hey, maybe like if this explodes, like there shouldn't just be a kid here that dies with us. And Tom Savini's like, no, let's make more of it. And like he's a crazy guy.
Basically inventing the entire horror genre of physical effects, with just like on the fly. Yeah. In that movie and a few others. So I love that Rodriguez and Tarantino love putting folks like that in the picture, in the movie, and especially as like a wild, we'll go and say memorable character.
Yeah.
And also this cast is pretty diverse if you ask me. I mean, a lot of people don't really think of like Latino vampires as well, which is they
never did before this movie. It was not a thing that ever happened, which is one of the reasons why we included it. There's that aspect, and the fact that these are the more kind of bestial vampires as well. That was the first time we really saw that.
If you go
like
to
a Buffy thing.
If you go to Mexico or if you go to Latin America, like they were very into the Dracula story. Like there's Dracula, like there's like the Mexican remake of it. There's like, all of the different countries have like their vampire movies throughout the 70s and the 80s. Like they were the ones that were pumping out, like, because we talked about vampire movies completely kind of falling off for a little bit during the 80s, but like not in Mexico. Like Mexico was making their own.
No, they kept it going, and they had like their own version of it, and that kind of goes back to what we were saying a bit with Lost Boys, right? That Lost Boys took them out of like the Victorian garb and like the high castles and kind of put them into these working poor sort of mainstream surroundings at the same time, and then this this is very much got a built world. Spoiler alert: the bar is built on top of a freaking ancient temple. But which is great, by the way. That's a great final shot. I actually love that final shot. And you see like all the trucks and all the RVs and whatnot. It's
so
like, they've been doing this a while, I guess.
It's like so like his
there it is.
Stylistic, like he's very funny with his filmmaking. He's very like the stylistic nature of it, and it's like, oh yeah, all right. So it's built on a mine temple.
But I think that's important to think about too, and there's a show called Real Latinos that hosted by these guys usually who are all Mexican, Spanish, et cetera, and they talk about movies. And they actually did an episode on this where they had two female friends of theirs, one of which I know now, and they had the Real Latinas talk about this. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant, because not only is there like representation for there being vampires that are not just a load of white people, but then also like this movie, it's a grindhouse classic, a modern grindhouse classic, but like I get it when people aren't into it. I'm like, yeah, it's an acquired taste, so to speak.
Yeah, I'll be also too. Remember, Blade came out like 2 years later, and he was a vampire. He's got all the strengths and none of the weaknesses. And apparently, there's still only gonna be one Blade.
Yeah, Deadpool's dead on that.
Well,
and of course we almost put Blade in as well. But how many? I mean, we need to sleep. Unlike vampires, we need to sleep now and again.
Yeah.
So.
I had 2 or like a week and a half where I was kind of like sick at the beginning of the month. Like I was, I could feel myself getting sick, and I kept flipping my sleep schedule, so I was only up at night. And I watched 10 vampire movies in like a very short amount of time at night. And I was like, I think I'm becoming like an actual fucking vampire.
Right, exactly.
But like
that would be the bit for the last episode. Like, oh, it turns out Forrest actually is a vampire.
How'd you come on with the Taika Waititi fangs or anything?
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I like that. Like, well, we talked about Desperado. We talked about Robert Rodriguez's kind of thing about like representation. Before that was, I mean, not saying before that was a concept because it definitely was before he, but like he was very early.
The show's not that old, yeah.
But like he was very.
He was conscious of it.
Yeah, he was conscious of it in a way that, like, I think a lot of minority groups in America trying to break into like the film and TV industry still were, but I don't think it was like a buzzword the same way that it is kind of now.
I mean, we know Danny Trejo literally because of Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, there was a back and forth in there. I know, like he was 55 in this.
Yeah, he's 80 now.
In this movie. And I feel like he's looked exactly the same. I mean, I guess maybe he is a vampire. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that dude's 80. That's crazy. How old is Biden? Is he as old as Biden?
Yes.
He's a little younger than Biden.
Listen, Jack.
Like 2 years?
I could take him. 81. He's 81. Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
See, they wouldn't have pushed him out if Danny Trejo was president. He would have been like, I'm fine.
Actually,
Jack, I don't care if you're a bartender and a vampire. Oh, you are? That's my time. That's my time.
I think, I mean, obviously I saw, Danny Trejo and Spy Kids, but my first movie where like serious role was Sherry Baby with Maggie Gyllenhaal. That was a really good movie about the recovering mother drug addict who tries to get custody of her daughter back. That's a good movie we should cover one time. It's really good. But like, he's been around for a lot longer than we think.
Well, because his first, I was gonna say, baby is a vampire, right? I mean, I feel like when I went to Trejo's Tacos in Los Angeles, like they have a lot of information about him, right? But like when he was in Runaway Train, which I think is the first movie he was in with Eric Roberts, Rebecca De Mornay, and all that, like he was literally just like, "Oh, we need you to like teach this guy how to fight." And he was like, sure, no problem. And then like, there's a great story behind it. I'm not going to try to paraphrase it, but like, that's what he was brought in for. And that was like his first acting role. And they're like, oh, this is this hard dude. And of course he would just get hired for like, hey, we need someone in prison to ... I was like, okay, well, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
He bought
we need a tough uncle.
That turned after Spy Kids. Then he could be a family member. But
I'm not your uncle. Did you know that? Because I think we talked about this when you weren't on Conan when we talked about Tangerine. He bought the donut shop from Tangerine, and he turned it into like Trejo's Coffee and Donuts.
Yeah, that's the one I haven't. I've been to the original one, but I've been to that one.
How good is it?
It's good. I mean, they have the same fare. The one I went to, which is like the main one, like was good. It's a little overpriced, but they have they got a deal. If you get there at the right time.
Nice.
I love the fact that Danny Trejo and Robert Rodriguez are second cousins, but they didn't know that they were second cousins until they were shooting Desperado.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we have like this person, this, and they realized like on set that they were second cousins.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. It was almost like they were destined to be collaborators.
Yeah.
In many ways. Like, family, partnership in like film first, but then family. And I think the closer they got as cousins, the more he was like, I really want you in my films. You're a good actor. You actually, you might be one noted, but he probably saw something in him where he's like, you could act all tough on the outside, but you do have a warm heart, on the inside type of like characters. Cause he always does like characters like that.
Mm-hmm.
It seems.
He also uses the same actors over and over and over again. Like obviously.
Cheech. Oh yeah.
But
even the guy from El Mariachi, he was like barely an actor. Like he's in Desperado, right? Like as one of the brothers, which is great.
Yeah. And Tito Lariva, who's in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
Like there's such like a 90s music video feeling to that whole sequence too. Like when it's zooming in on Tito Lariva's like playing the guitar or whatever, and he's like like dancing like this with Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, he's like the Mexicali Chris Isaac move. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like all right, respect, and it's cool, but it makes the scene. It's a vibey scene, right? And again, I mean, God, when we get introduced to Salma Hayek's character, like, is there any better lead up in like a genre movie of that kind? Because like, wow, what's gonna happen? What's this?
Yeah.
And she's got that snake, which apparently she's afraid of snakes. Amazing.
Yeah.
Because you never would know that.
She was afraid of snakes and was gonna quit the movie because she was like, I can't do this. They're like, no, you gotta have the yellow boa. We're putting a boa on you. You gotta have the boa on you. And the Google AI thing, which I mean, I don't necessarily trust because they do a summary of stuff, but it was like she decided she needed to pay her rent. Like that was like
yeah.
I mean, she wasn't a worldwide superstar at that point, so it's plausible. But
what's funny too is
she's a billionaire now.
Yeah, what's funny is
good for her.
In Britney Spears' memoir, when she performed at the VMA, she was like, I was so terrified of that snake. And everyone's like, it's a yellow boa constrictor. It ain't going to do anything to you, Britney. Calm down. Like, I'm like, yeah, but still, the fear of snakes is kind of terrifying. But like,
well, yeah, because people are trying to explain it away, but that's not how phobias work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if
you can intellectually know something all you want. It doesn't change the fact that, it's some primal, like, coming from the spine level, you're just terrified of this thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and like, snakes are such like an archaic phobia for humans. Like
a good snake is a dead snake.
To the point where literally the foundational myth of some Christians are going to get mad at me for calling it a myth, but like the foundational myth of the Bible is like the snake, and the snake is the bad thing. Like it's so ingrained into our, into our psyche. It's like,
the snake is the reason why we are clothed right now, people. Okay.
if it wasn't for the snake, I could take the shirt right off.
Thank you / you're welcome. I don't.
I'm just imagining a snake saying that.
I think, yeah, right. I think snakes get a bad rap personally, but whatever.
I mean, it depends on the snake, but yeah, I agree. I find constrictors really fucking cool.
I'm talking about Sid the Snake. Have you ever heard of him? He's a great cat fairy.
No, well, I find like constrictors and the fact that they've developed this alternative, like non-venomous version of like evolution that they literally constrict and then can swallow you. Like I find that cool as fuck.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Rat snakes do that too, and I always stumble on these
swallowing alligators whole. Anyone?
These really big black rat snakes that hang out on the biking trail that I'm at, and I almost like flip over my handlebars like every summer because there'll be like this really long snake, like a 7-foot long snake, kind of like just hanging out on the side of the trail, and I'm like, whoa!
Cycling. Yeah. Anyway, Never Kill the Band, and then also backstory on the band, please. That's. I know that you know a lot of backstory about. How this came together, because this is actually interesting enough. Rodriguez now like scores almost everything himself now with the studio he bought with money from the movies, especially Spy Kids, and so he does most of the things in house. But I think it is Tito and the Tarantula. I think it's a fantastic story because it's similar to Desperado, but not exactly the same. Tons of people came in and out of that band, including Johnny Vatos of Oingo Boingo. But I mean, they formed at like '92. Something like along those lines, right? And look, yeah, I would put it this way: it's like when I talk to the drummer for Mike Baguetta and Mike Watt, Steve Hodges, who played in the Pink Room, the scene in Fire Walk with Me. He's like drummer. Well, he's played like Bob Dylan and Mavis Staples. He's played like everybody, but the Pink Room in Twin Peaks, like that song, the song we all think of when we think of like Twin Peaks, if it's not the theme song, it's like get to be in like one of the most iconic film scenes of all time. Cool, that sounds all right. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, and especially for someone that's like been around for forever. Because I mean, Tito's like. Even here, like I don't think he was 55, but he was no spring chicken at that point. I mean,
he also, when he was leading the Plugs, he got to be the guy that put together the soundtrack for Repo Man.
Yeah, that's right. Because they scored Repo Man, and I think there's like 2 or 3 Plug songs on the soundtrack. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You always love when there's a good song that's associated with a film or a TV show. Like you think of, the Remembrance with Friends.
Yeah.
You think of like that one sentimental pop soft contemporary song for like Dawson's Creek or something like that. Of course,
Red Right Hand and Peaky Blinders.
Yes, I was just about to say that too.
Sorry,
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say My Heart Will Go On.
I mean, maybe, but like,
well, look at Cry Little Sister for Lost Boys.
Yeah.
We just talked about that.
Yeah.
It's like, if you hear that, what do you think of? I think of Lost Boys.
Goodbye Horses. Anyone?
Goodbye
Anyone?
Horses, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs. Exactly.
Conan, do you know if the After Dark song that he does here? Because I don't know. Is it? What did he write that before this and put it out, or is it written specifically for this? I'd assume it's written.
I think it's written for this. That's a good question. I mean, I know that he also worked with Rodriguez on the score as well. So, but I don't know if that was a previous, because it is a pretty badass song, right? So I don't know if that was,
and it also
beforehand or not.
It works not as a vampire song, because the whole thing is like, well, she could be leaving after dark. You know, she only comes out after dark because she's cheating on somebody, or you know, her life is like a mystery outside of it, or like, but it's also like, oh, she could be a vampire. Like,
it's true.
Yeah. Oh, fun weird fact. You know, I mean, some people don't think this is a Halloween film. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's about vampires in the second act. Like, a lot of people are like, I don't know why, and I'm like, oh, you will know why halfway through. Okay, just saying.
Really, only watch the first half.
Yes, people are like, I'm just gonna watch the first half of this movie. I'm like,
so After Dark is credited to Tito and the Tarantula. So, and that was they didn't go by that before that. So I would, I feel like that it was probably either made for the film or around for that. But yeah, there you go.
Well, he's the heavy that hangs out in Cheech's bar in Desperado. Like, he's just the guy that's on the phone.
That's right.
Like, does that, and then you know, there's that iconic Tarantino scene. These movies were so back to back that literally, like, when they did the documentary where they followed them around, they were doing events for Desperado, and then that's when they announced, like, literally on a panel for Desperado right after it came out. That's when they announced that this movie was going to be their next one, and it was like the first script that Tarantino had ever gotten paid for writing 5 years before this was was this, because the guy that worked with Greg Nicotero, Kurtzman, like this was his like passion project pretty much, but he wasn't the script writer. So he found like a young Tarantino and was like, hey, do you want to get paid I'll pay you $1,500, and they did the effects on Reservoir Dogs for free, all the blood splatter and torture stuff.
Great. Yeah,
and that was there.
So After Dark, Angry Cockroaches, and Opening Boxes were recorded for this specifically, and there's also a bunch of stuff that's like about, you know, the line of the band. It's irrelevant to the story, but there you go. That's something I didn't know. So.
But even the songs are like, if you look up, like, I'm trying to curate a Halloween playlist for my Halloween stream, and even the songs from Dusk Till Dawn aren't included in these playlists.
Yeah, well, After Dark is such a it's an iconic one. I feel like.
Yeah. Like people are like, why are songs about murder and death? I'm like, because Halloween we associate with those things. Like, even Red Right Hand is considered a Halloween song.
Because Scream is the first time I heard that in a movie, but like, there's a lot of movies that use that for
where
a
it's
long time.
where like a song, like if it's a horror movie, like a song is so associated with a horror movie that it's included in like a lot of these playlists now, like especially with From Dusk Till Dawn, because it's, you know, the songs are rather important.
Yeah,
they're completely. It's vital to the movie. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, especially just that whole sequence, like, and that sequence is going to be remembered forever. Like, people are never going to forget Salma Hayek doing the snake dance ever. Like, that's going to be remembered more than anything else in this movie for as long.
It's the last synapse fires seconds before you die. Boy, she sure did know how to handle that snake, didn't she?
I thought she was like, this better be worth it.
yeah, exactly.
You really can't tell that she's afraid of the snake, though.
No, not at all.
No, that's like, it's all in that. I bet what happened was that they probably tried to warm her up to the snake and be like, see, it's not. Maybe this got her. Maybe she still has a fear of snakes. I don't know.
I tend to doubt that Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino warmed her up to the snake. I tend to doubt that those two guys specifically that did that.
I don't know, but like, I would be like,
more like, get the fuck out there and put the snake around you and give it a push, kind of guys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I mean, nowadays you have to kind of consider those things.
Well,
now directors are kind of shitty and they don't consider their actors' needs and whatever. But it's a different time in 1995.
Well, I think also, something we touched on, like I mentioned Tom Savini, right? But like you get into this whole like when they're battling, it's like you have like this whole other cast of characters that are all like, they're guys from like other stuff. They're guys from other stuff that you're like, oh, cool. That's like if you know who Tom Savini is, it's like, especially if you're a horror fan, then you're going to be stoked by that. Fred Williamson, it's a big like blaxploitation like actor, and these are all the people that are like doing battle with the characters that we've seen for the rest of the movie, and that's great. Yep. It really works, I think.
Yeah,
but it's also like you get the thing I call it like the Escape from New York mindset, where like everybody's I'm so and so, and here's my backstory. I'm blah blah. They're just like kicking ass immediately, and then like you're just like, oh, that guy's awesome. Like I wouldn't mess with him. And then they even joke about that because in the scene where Fred Williamson's character, he's like, well, see, back in Nam, blah 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 blah, et cetera, and then you see Tom Savini again. The most iconic like zombie effects ever, who's had the zombie thing, right? Because in this movie, it's like if you get bit by a vampire, you turn into a vampire, right? It's like more zombie rules. And you see him doing the thing that every asshole in every zombie movie does, where he like hides the wound, right? He puts his leather jacket on, and then you see him like changing, and it's almost like comedic, like the fang comes out and tries to hide it, et cetera, et cetera. And meanwhile, Fred Williamson's just rattling on about like, well, in the Nam, blah, 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 this and that. And that's why he gets killed, which is in and of itself an homage and kind of a mockery of those kinds of characters where like, oh, now that we've been fighting for a while, I'm going to tell you my origin.
Yeah.
And, it's like, and that's why he gets killed. And that is so funny. Like, it's so funny and it works so well for me. And again, is it goofy? Yes. It's almost like out of like Evil Dead 2 or something, right? But like, I love it. It's great.
Extremely goofy movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's
there's also like, I mean, Savini, like from the day he kind of started. Actually, his first movie with Romero was not Dawn of the Dead. It was Marty, that vampire movie about the guy.
You're right. He did do Marty before that. But like what I was speaking about is
I wasn't even trying to correct it. I was just saying like it's interesting that that's his first movie. That's George A. Romero's like vampire movie. Like
right. That's right. That's a good point. And it was really where Dawn of the Dead he came to the front as being like doing the effects, all the practical effects.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and he was getting trained on the job. I mean, he's the guy that fucking destroyed the mall. They were like, hey, you can shoot in here, but you can't destroy the mall. He's the one.
Okay, no problem.
That mall up, like
driving motorcycles around in there. Like just it's a disaster.
Mm-hmm. There's the whole thing with like George A. Romero building up like this crazy cast of fucking crew members that come around with him everywhere.
Yeah.
Like just building it and building it and building it. So there's all these people, and they're just the extras in every movie because you need to be so many extras, and they don't have the technology Walking Dead has, where you can just endlessly clone the that they stole from Peter Jackson or whatever. And so like it's kind of funny that like in all of the Savini movies, like he's always just a guy. Like he's either like the heavy or he's a guy in the place with them that's trapped. Like he's always
he gets killed in a cool way, maybe.
Yeah. So in this, it feels like they're almost paying homage to him, because they're like, look, you don't have to actually do the effects here. You can just be an actor in this role, like Tarantino.
You can just have a gun instead of a penis, and be called Sex Machine.
And Greg Nicotero is the guy that pulls the knife, and then Savini pulls the gun on him, the crotch gun. Which, why does he have that? I don't know, but
it's because it's cool. That's literally the only reason why. Why does he have it there? Because it's cool, and that's the only answer you need, right? It's like why is
if a vampire comes?
Yeah, it works really well in that one scene where he's intimidating the guy. Yeah, that's perfect. But the rest of the time, it's like But it's just the grindhouse thing, right? It's a genre thing of like, oh, there's this guy, and he does this thing or has this weapon or whatever, and nobody really questions it that much or thinks too hard about it. Yeah, why is he called Sex Machine? I don't know. It's because it's a funny name. Oh.
There's always that guy. There's always the black guy that's from Nam, or like like the guy's like, oh, man. Like,
well, that's why I like, because that is such a trope, and it's such a blaxploitation trope too, of which.
Yeah.
Look up the movies he's been in, by the way. I'm not going to mention them on this stream because I don't want to get demonetized. But like some of them have some pretty like, whoa.
What's that title?
yeah. That's all I'm going to say.
Words that we'd have to have Jason on here to say. He's the only one.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, Dan.
Do it an after party. but not this after party.
He's also like the Hammer. He was one of the early football players too, like the 60s black football player.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of sad that OJ got all the glory, but that, you know, that thing
the first movie he stars in has a title that, if you said the title, literally instantaneously by it.
Imagine getting robbed by a crotch gun. Well.
It's a full-blown like codpiece kind of crotch gun.
It's too bad.
It's packaged to a whole new level, huh?
By the way, and we mentioned Machete, right? Like that was another one that like showed up as like a fake trailer teaser in Grindhouse. That was, and they actually made that. They made a bunch of them.
So that was the first Rodriguez movie I think that I watched after. I think I watched From Dusk Till Dawn first, but like putting the connection in my head to like Spy Kids as a kid, and be like, oh, it's Machete, from Spy Kids, and it's like, oh no, that's not what this is.
Exactly.
I think it's that movie though, and I loved fucking Machete Kills. Like those are so good.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, like I mean, and like that was like see that guy, like knowing again because I saw this movie as we established in the theater. So it was one of the things like, oh yeah, that guy is going to be like a movie star. Like, what, that guy? Really? Wow. That seems unlikely, but okay. I mean, I think that's awesome. I also think that the character design for the vampires is awesome. And again, this fit our slot for the bestial vampires. Like you have like the reptilian, you have just the rat, which is like, okay, what is even happening there? But like you have like they're creatures, and you get that kind of moment of exposition, right? You get that moment of exposition where it's like, oh, well, they're soft, they have soft tissue around their head. It was like, huh? Why are we? And it's like, oh, because that explains why like their heads are just popping off when you're just like, and like, okay, it's sure they're somehow weaker as vampires than they are as humans in that one specific way.
Yeah, well, that's always the Achilles heel thing. It's like, where's the one?
Yeah.
Thing. But they have such a funny conversation when they're trying to figure out the vampire tropes. And they're going back.
Oh, that's amazing. That's one of the other reasons why this is in here, of course, because the whole like, well, what do we know about vampires? And then like, that's an amazing scene because it's like, well, is that something you actually know, or did you just read it and be like, Silver, that's werewolves? It's like, no, well, yeah, but like,
I love asking that guy.
Well,
Sex Machine, if he's read it, have we read anything about vampires? It's like that guy has never read anything about anything.
Well, Ford, speaking of the listing all the tropes, in the next film we're gonna be the last one we're covering, Abigail, they do a whole thing like, how can we kill this vampire? How garlic, steak, like it's like like now it's almost become like a parody of like, oh my god.
We see it. You're so right, Kristina. We see it like in every movie now because everything's meta referential and scream-like in that way.
Those are fucking onions.
Well, even like I was rewatching for the first time since I was like, I mean, I guess I see it most years, but Fright Night I was rewatching because every Halloween I feel like I watch Fright Night at some point, like whether it's on cable TV or whatever, and they kind of have the whole thing where it's like, oh, it has to be holy water, and they fake the holy water, and they're trying to figure out like, oh, well, the cross doesn't work unless you actually believe in God, so if you don't believe in God, the cross stops working. Like there's all these like additional rules. They're like, this works sometimes but not other times. Like
the holy water can't be expired. Yeah, I know those.
And here they have like the shotgun can be a cross, so you wield them up with the cross, then you blast them with a shotgun.
It's so fucking
fantastic.
It's
fantastic. There's no notes. Amazing. Like that's like everybody who's ever made like a vampire movie is probably like, oh wow, I never thought about that.
Such a good. I like earlier you said like some of the stuff with like you could be the guy, like that's over the top in some movies, and it works here with Harvey Keitel. I love the or you could be a bad motherfucker who serves God or whatever, and he's like, I'm a bad of course that guy,
I'm like, Harvey Keitel not cussing. What movie is this?
Which is great. It's a movie where we get such a range. Like, and you even get with that, like, speaking to that point, it's like, do you have a cross? It's in the Winnebago. So in other words, no.
Yeah, that's such a you line, though. That's such a you way to.
I know it's totally a thing I would say. It's just, but then that's when Scott says like, we got crosses all over the place. Like I just put them together and you make a cross. And then like it's Sex Machine specifically who says he's right. Peter Cushing does it all the time.
Yeah,
amazing. A Van Helsing reference. It meta contextually within like our vampire movie, right? Great. Yeah, but of course it's like a movie, not the book, which I think you're right. It's like because he say like a Time Life book?
Yeah.
No, not a time on vampires. Why would there be a Time Life book on vampires?
I really like like vampires. I like the whole back and forth on Silver, where they're like it has something to do with Silver, because it really is in all these movies. Like it has something to do with Silver. And they're like, oh, that's werewolves. And he's like, yeah, the Silver Bullet is werewolves, but Silver is vampires.
Silver does have something to do with it. No, and they're going back and forth because they don't know anything. Because again, this is before there was such a monoculture about vampires again. Because even when we got Bram Stoker's Dracula being as huge as it is, and Interview with the Vampire being like even huger in a lot of ways, like it wasn't lore dependent. It was like, oh, this is like the aristocratic regal vampire, and this is like the sexy feeling vampire. Again, all of them mocked in the last movie What We Do in the Shadows. But that's before you get into like this, and it happened. It happens to a certain extent with like werewolves as well. But like then like now everybody knows the rules with vampires, right? The rules are just like a thing that everyone knows. Before that, if you didn't like play D&D. Like you would have no idea. You'd be like lost. You'd be having a conversation just like how they have, which is hilarious. And one of the first times we see that. It's the first times we see that. And I understand that like meta-contextual references are just kind of. It was like, all right, we get it. It happens so often now, but it was not a thing that happened. Yeah. Like even in Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. You don't get meta-contextual references in that at all. There's absurdity, of course, but it's all like one of the reasons why those movies work is it's in a lot of ways treated very seriously. But there's not like again, within the world of From Dusk Till Dawn, vampires do exist, but mostly as a narrative function. And there isn't the knowledge holder. There isn't like Anthony Hopkins Van Helsing around. It's like there's I don't know, we're just a bunch of people. Like we don't know. Why would we know about that?
Yeah, well, it's also like, I mean, it's like what I was saying earlier about Tarantino finding a way to do some pretty realistic dialogue in how people talk. Like if I mean now us, I guess we could, if vampires showed up, we could kind of figure it out.
Oh yeah, we're built different. This show, we're built different.
We know garlic works. I'm gonna make them Italian. I'm gonna make them fresh pasta, put a whole garlic in it, see what happens.
But if you're not like if you're not really paying attention to like vampire movies, which all these characters aren't, like then vampires suddenly show up, right? Like, because in this movie, it's not like they know that there's vampires and they're fighting them from the start. Like that vampire show up out of fucking nowhere. Like Tarantino's hand was bleeding and Salma Hayek just bit him. Like.
And they're just like dropped in the action, which is obviously stressful and traumatic, and like you're not going to be like thinking at your most brilliant ideas at the time. But the fact that they have that conversation within the context of it, I think you're right, Kristina. We're so used to seeing that now. Mm-hmm. But like this is the first time I remember seeing it. Does it exist in other places? Probably. It's probably not as funny.
Yeah, I mean the scene in Abigail is quite funny because they're like she's a little girl.
Yeah, but I think that's in 2024. As opposed
that's
to
that's still like because again,
still works.
Rarely do people think vampires still exist or whatever. Like certain vampire films hit or miss. But I think Abigail will. But I wonder if Christopher Nolan's alleged gothic horror vampire movie that he's allegedly doing that takes place in 1920s is going to work. Because I wonder who's going. I'm like, yo, Cillian Murphy, either vampire.
That
doesn't seem like his type.
Yeah, not at all. I mean,
vampires set off a chain of events that lead to the stock market crashing. They're buying up all the garlic futures.
I mean, am I wrong, or does that seem like a little bit outside of his normal wheelhouse?
Maybe to get out of the box, but I mean,
or a coffin, if you will.
He did his like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I mean, maybe he's kind of going through and methodically doing all these different version of all these different things.
Yeah, like, Oppenheimer was his magnum opus, so now he's gonna.
Yeah,
he could get away with doing more now.
Definitely outside of the wheelhouse.
Paramount.
But I mean, you can tell in this movie, like this is outside of Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's wheelhouse. Like that's why it's
absolutely
final act. That they're like, and they're kind of making fun of it the entire time, and they're just kind of letting the makeup guys go wild. Like
Oh,
Well,
Stevie, with the energy vampires. You know what's so funny? Like with What We Do in the Shadows, we're finally seeing more different types of vampires come out now, like the energy vampires and the emotional vampires. I'm ready for there to be more movies featuring those type of vampires too.
Oh, because the traditional like sucking blood vampires, like it's been. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you know, divorcee vampires that suck all the money out of people's accounts.
Well, and that goes back to what KT was saying when we did Ravenous too. Like, you know, you don't see a lot of Wendigo films. You know, like that's something where it's like there's just not that much of a rich folklore to pull from, except for in the rest of the non-movie world, in which case there's plenty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd love to see like a Native American, because there's more like representation of Native Americans doing film now. I'd love to see their take on like a Wendigo kind of movie.
Oh yeah,
that'd be great.
Because they've done a bunch of horror movies about them, and it's always a white director and a white screenwriter.
Yeah. Of course.
And they're like,
shocking nobody.
I'm going for this Native American trope, and it's like I'd love to see like how a Native.
How about let an actual Native director do that? How about that? Wild concept, I know. But.
Because like. The Wendigo is like a specific cautionary tale about what happens when you put yourself over your community, like, which is what, you know, white people did. Like, you know, they put themselves and their profit over the welfare of their community, and that's what that story is supposed to signify. And it's like every white director that does it is like, I don't think you're the one that's kind of making this point. I mean, you know, Ravenous did a good job with it.
Can it really be about personal freedom instead? That would be a better movie.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, this is what happens when you take away the regulation.
Anyway, I like the character design in this, even though it's completely over the place. I really don't know why one of them transforms into a gigantic rat, but it doesn't really matter. It's a good time, right? Like that's sort of like when you're at that point of like everything in this bar is attempting to kill you. The band has like human body guitars and stuff, which unfortunately takes me out of it because I'm like, how would you tune that?
Well, and Tito Lariva's kind of dressed like you, but like a mariachi.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
And everything.
I have a jacket that's super close to how he is, but it doesn't look good with a black shirt. So
Fred Williamson is still alive, by the way.
Oh my God! Really? 86. How old's that guy?
86.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Good on him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, look, it makes sense. Like in Thelma, Richard Roundtree
has at least 3 children, but some sources state he has at least 6.
Nice.
Well, he'll figure that out before he.
Richard Roundtree, aka Shaft, who was in the amazing film Thelma, my favorite movie of the year so far. He just passed away, unfortunately, before the movie was released. But I know he was only 81. But yeah, that's. But like, I think Fred Williamson's one of those guys that like he's always kind of, pretty much has seemed the same. But just like Danny Trejo, where it's like, all right, they look about the same. You know, there's certain people.
Yeah.
But
like I feel like Tilda Swinton will like look about the same. You know,
well, she's a little vampire.
She's already canonically she's a vampire. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like you know, What We Do in the Shadows show.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And Evan Rachel Wood apparently too, and I'm like, okay.
The Kate Blanchett thing that you guys said was really funny, where they called her up to like ask her to be in in the Shadows, and they ended it. They're like, we thought you were a vampire.
We thought you were Kate Beckinsale. Very different people.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should just let her do it. Should let her do it. She'd be a great vampire. How has she not been a vampire before? Cast Kate Blanchett as a vampire already.
She's got the face.
Yeah, exactly. Sure does. Thank you. We sorted that out. So let's fix it, Hollywood. Do it. So I like character design for all of them, even though it's crazy. I like the getting the armaments together scene, which is also kind of Harvey Keitel's character goes like 2 steps further than you think he's going to, about you need to make sure you'll kill me. Say it. Say that you will do it. And it's like, whoa, dude, whoa, I get it. Yes, I'll kill you. And he's like, you know, that went harder than I remember it going, where it's just like, oh man, like he's.
But I'm also like, as like a person who had like, you know, parents that do guilt trips, I was like, relatable. He's like, all right, pull my brains out, and it's like, I guess I'm dead, and it's like, no. All right, I'll do it. It's like, all right, good choice. How about you?
You know. Is there a way we could guilt Conan into doing these Letterboxd one-liners?
We probably. I was gonna ask how you felt about the character design, Kristina, because I know you're.
I thought it was great. As someone who's watched every type of vampire movie, I loved it. It was better than what was that one Stephen King movie with the cat vampires? Better than that design, I'll tell you that.
Sleepwalkers.
Pet Cemetery.
No,
Sleepwalkers.
Oh,
an entirely different disaster. Well, and do you see what I mean? Where I kind of feel like that you get this is a through line to this in like 30 Days of Night and stuff, and like just like the more kind of just like creatures. They're more creature than
I would say that like. I mean, and of course you have to do this, I guess, if you have, like Greg Nicotero and Tom Savini on set, but it feels in a lot of ways more like a zombie movie than a vampire movie in some ways. Like literally, because
people give you like get bit once, then you become a vampire. Really? Yeah. Okay, sure. I mean, like
there are different tropes about how many times you got to get bit, though. We've all that's still.
But nobody has time to get bit twice in this. Like it has to go. Faster than Clooney's dialogue in the beginning.
It takes as long as it takes Fred Williamson to finish up his Nom story, almost to turn.
Dude, it cracks you up that one shot where it's Savini's hands on his shoulder. And you know what's about to happen. Like that one shot, like pausing it there is like that is so fucking good. Like it's with the nails and everything, and the Savini's face too, as like he's like playing with his tooth, and then the tooth is, and he's like. And it's like that's that classic zombie thing where you're like you see the bite or whatever, you're like like
he's a good physical actor, and maybe it has to do with like just being around so many people, like especially in like these splatter genres and whatnot, and seeing them people do it really well and seeing people do it really badly. They're like when he does it, like anytime he's in a thing, even if it's like a lesser movie, he's really good in it.
Well, you have to think so much about the human face when you're doing that, and like the expressions the human face makes, and like the way that the human face moves and functions. That I have to imagine he's thought about it so much that it's like secondhand to him or whatever, second nature.
Yeah. Absolutely, he kicks ass in this, and I love the lack of explanation as to why he's Sex Machine or why the gun, any of that.
Sex Machine.
That's why I literally would make it so well playing like psychotic women in Hollywood.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't even need an explanation. So,
Sex Machine, man.
Casting directors, take note. All right, so Letterboxd is a social media site for film lovers talk out with and to each other about the films they love, maybe the films they didn't love, the films they only wanted to make a single comment about feet that probably wasn't very funny, and of course, it's a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to have their say. They get to chime in and opine. But it's best expressed succinctly. You keep it short, keep it tight, and that is what the purpose of this bit is, where we collect these one-liners for the week for these movies that we cover, and we read them aloud and react to them on air. These are the Letterboxd one-liners From Dusk Till Dawn. Let's get that off there.
Let's
get that off my screen. Get that praise off my screen. God damn it! I can't read my bit.
Hang on. How long?
Thank you. It's Art with Words.
We put this up.
Oh, here. A long time ago. There we go.
All right, here we go. Letterboxd one-liners. If you look like Quentin Tarantino and your brother looks like George Clooney, you probably lost the genetic lottery.
Amen.
With that background too. That's why I picked it.
Great. So sweaty. Like, look at that sweat on his brow. Awesome.
He's sweating throughout it, and it's like that's such a sign of like his
own... sweaty.
It's great. Well, that escalated quickly. Imagine Tom Savini giving George Clooney a run for his money to be the hottest man in this film. Tom Savini does look awesome in this film, though. I will say he's got like the biker look, like told he's working for him.
I want to know who Tarantino pissed off throughout the process of this to get. They made his vampire heads like 10 times bigger than his regular head, and it's like, come on, man, like his forehead and everything. It's like they violated him with his vampire prosthetic.
They definitely went pretty hard with that. Yeah.
It's like if that was Tarantino bloviating about his career, like that's how big his head would be at this point. Like,
hey. The FBI kicks in my door as I drop the fifth and final toenail clipping that once belonged to Salma Hayek into the cauldron. They're too late.
True.
Her name in this, the name of her character is great too.
In From Dusk Till Dawn? I
Yeah.
couldn't even tell you.
Satanical
Well, they announce it.
Pandemonium.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a really
Satanical
ostentatious
Pandemonium.
name. Yeah. That's all I remember. I was like, oh, wow.
I am Satanical Pandemonium.
In fact, not a family-friendly Halloween movie.
I think it is.
Tagged with family. So there you go. From not Ravana. The greatest film about bank. It's super confusing. Right? I was like, wait, what? No, okay.
Raven.
The greatest film about bank robbers, hostage situations, strip clubs, and rat monster-like vampires that melt or explode upon death of all time.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very specific genre.
It's good to say. If you get that, all you gotta do is drill down enough, and then you get best of all time. Awesome movie. In the unlikely event you're trapped with your family at a biker bar that's secretly a vampire hideout, rest assured, the Lord will provide.
Oh, I'm going.
The Lord will provideth.
If I ever get stuck at like a biker bar like that, I'm going back to the RV and getting the cross. Now that I've watched it,
got crosses all around you. Just grab the shotgun. It's enough. Using a cross that is made with a shotgun to shield off vampires and blowing their fucking brains out is cool as shit.
Dude, it's so fucking cool. And like,
I agree, and it's criminal. This only has one like, and it's me, by the way. So.
Oh wow.
But like rewatching it, like I forgot how fucking hard it goes. Like just
it's awesome. Yeah.
Like
no, that's one of the reasons why it belongs in the month.
There's also I feel like there's a sliding scale between crosses and vampire movies that we could talk about, where it's like, you have something like Friday Night where it's like it only works if you really, really believe in God and you're holding the cross,
right.
And like and then in this movie it's like just anything you can put together, you can make it look.
I got two pool cues and I got a cross now. There you go.
Oh Jesus, you can't stop me.
Me while watching this movie. Hey man, this movie's pretty good. Is that fucking vampire playing a guitar made from a dead guy?
True.
That's
what
happens when one of the secret friends talks and says they're in the band.
Exactly. You become an instrument. It's harsh but fair. Psychos don't explode in sunlight, no matter how crazy they are.
That line cracked me the fuck up too, because he's like, what happened? There's a bunch of psychos in there, and he's like, psychos don't explode in sunlight. It doesn't matter how crazy they are.
Absolutely.
I also that like back and forth or whatever. I love that in the beginning he says, these guys are not some slur here, fireworks salesmen. You know what I mean? They don't barter. They don't even know the meaning of the word. And then the first thing that happens is he starts bartering down the amount of money he gives to them.
Like immediately. Yeah. Great. Tom Savini penis gun.
Yeah, boy.
It's the old crotch rocket.
Remington 2.7.
Too bad they dispatched with the character. They could make like a sequel somehow, and he could.
I want to know is Jacob Virgin with Remington like the gun or like a guy named your ostentatious British friend Remington?
Who knows? Who knows? So there you go. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for From Dusk Till Dawn. Please follow the show at our Letterboxd HQ account at Movie Night Extra. If you review one of the movies that we cover and you tag it as Movie Night Extra, Movie Night Extravaganza, actually, then we will like the review that you do, and I don't know, maybe we'll do something else cool with it. Start doing it. We'll find out together.
I did it for From Dusk Till Dawn.
You don't get anything. You're the host of the show.
I know. I don't want any.
Exactly.
Set of snake knives. That's what you get.
Hey man, invite me in the club.
Pussy.
That should be a react gif. We're doing stories of all the great movies that we cover, which lots of additional contents, links to shorts and other things along those lines. Follow the show on Letterboxd. It's a good follow, and we try to keep it lively. Everybody be cool. Always Flacco over there. Forrest trying to curry favor with his own show somehow. He's also logging everything that we do.
I know a guy that can get me on the show.
I know a guy. I know a guy can get me in. He's doing all the stuff that we cover in this show and so much more, and you can follow him for there to see what he's up to. I am the Vampire House band leader at Conan Neutron, doing the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fare. I'm down to 4 films left on my Criterion Challenge, which I think it's fair to say I'll be able to finish before the end of the year, so doing very well on that. Follow me along for that. Film School Dropouts, which I'm neglecting big time, and just in general. Salma Hayek's agent over here, Call my agent. It's Kristina at Kristina on Letterboxd. Very lively this month. I think I've seen you log more stuff this month than
You're so busy. You're so busy fucking playing around on Letterboxd that you forgot to make sure that the contract didn't say that a snake had to go around Salma Hayek for this movie.
Exactly.
I know. That's what happened.
Someone's gonna have your hide.
Did you do the Snake Rider? Oh fuck! I forgot about the Snake Rider.
Yeah.
Damn it! I knew I forgot something. I was very busy.
Snake Rider.
Oh yeah. I forgot. I got these. I can do these. There's me. There's Forrest. There's Kristina.
I still don't know how I added like a description. I still don't know.
I think it's because your bio is just like a single sentence. My bio, as you might imagine, is longer than that.
My bio is just Lincoln bio.
My bio is
pussy and bio.
I should do that.
You know that you do pussy and bio. So
if you find a better bio, read it.
That guy would be the top pussy and bio guy. Pussy and bio.
God.
Pussy and
You
bio.
know, there was not a single Letterboxd alert pussy and bio COVID.
Oh my God. Wow, there's still time. Not for this bit. That's over. There's still time. And of course, follow our friend and fellow co-host KT Baldassaro at Movie Runtime, who is also on Letterboxd as well. Let's hit it with the plug.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and then hit the bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. And we'd humbly request that you watch the video to the end, because it helps us with the algorithm and helps more film fans to discover the show. We're also monetized. If you want to get your chat questions definitely read on stream, you can always send us a super chat, which will help us keep the show going. Every cent helps. If you're watching on Twitch, you can gift us a free sub on Amazon Prime with your Prime membership, but getting subs on Twitch is always appreciated, and it helps to follow us on there as well. We also have an audio feed, which is available wherever you download podcasts, if you prefer to listen to podcasts rather than watch the stream. That's updated usually the same day we stream, but watching on YouTube and Twitch is the best way to get the show first, live as it happens. If you want to support us with a monthly donation and get access to all of our after parties forever, which go patron only after we do them, you can become a patron at patreon.com/movie night extra. Link is in the description for that. It really helps us keep the show going since we do have some expenses to make this happen. We also have a Discord community. Link is in the description for that. We sometimes watch movies we cover on there. We get into conversations about everything from film to TV shows to related podcasts. We even have a Discord channel for memes. It's really fun on there. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads. You connect with us on all of those. Talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, we recently made a TikTok at Movie Night Extra where we're putting up short form clips from the episodes. Okay, passing this to Conan so he can tell you about his music and this week's Protonic Reversal. Conan, who's on Protonic this week?
Yeah, I got Jim Kimball of Laughing Hyenas, Mule, Ghost Forest, and for a few years, Jesus Lizard. So very interesting cat. And then finally, the Steve Moriarty, who played in The Gits and wrote the book on Mia Zapata. That's finally happening on Saturday. I've been talking about that all month, so that should be a great one as well. Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends in Columbus and Louisville with God Bullies next month, and in St. Paul and Chicago with Dead Bob and Lung. Should be great shows. You'd think I'd have a flyer ready, but no, I've been busy doing other stuff. And anything else? And I think that's it for now. Kristina, what do you got?
Well, I just logged in from Dusk Till Dawn. Pussy.
Did you really? Oh my God.
In bio.
Right now. I'm gonna log into my Letterboxd account on this computer just to like it. Oh, wait, I can't do it.
Okay.
Pussy in bio.
Unfortunately, when it comes to left Twitch politics, it's just drama, unfortunately, and I hate covering it, but that's the only thing that's really going on. I'm gonna be on the Power Report this week with Dan and Bam. We're gonna be covering a lot of some more serious stuff, hopefully. I hope Twitch unbans all my friends for ranking hummus. And of course, Shadow Saturday, where we watch Dark Shadows. We are deep, like Barnabas knows that David knows that he's a vampire, perhaps, and it's getting getting deep. And then Sunday Fun Day, we will be doing, my chat's going to be making my Halloween playlist for me, and I'm a little worried about that.
You know what's the one song
that could go a couple ways?
The one song that's always gets put on a Halloween playlist. It's not a Halloween song. Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Because it's about fear. Fear's in the title.
And the Reaper.
People, I know, people, yeah. people don't think like that everybody Backstreet's Back is it's a Halloween song. I'm like, yes, it is. I'm like, one, the music video was a 90s tribute to Thriller. Second, it has a spooky vibe to it and everyone loves doing the dance. Like, I mean, I do, but like, it's fun. I like this fact that Psycho Killer is on the playlist too.
Psycho Killer, can't you say? Yeah.
But yeah, that's all that's really going on. Like, it's been a very slow-ish week. Besides all this weird drama that Ethan Klein starting with
It's been crazy that like 1 week like 500 things will happen. Like, but like Biden drops out, Trump gets shot. Like 50,000 fucking things happen the same week, and then there'll be like a 2 week stretch where nothing literally happens, and it's like.
And we got 2 weeks until the election, so.
It feels like we should like. It feels like time needs to balance these things out a little bit. Like,
yes, please. I need some more news to balance all this stuff out. Like, come on, people. Like, I know. Also, Tim Pool is apparently quitting YouTube because he doesn't want to debate Sam Cedar anymore. So it's like,
the monkey's paw version of that is like, come on, I need some more news. And then you like Israel goes to war with like 6 more countries. Like, not like that.
Right, exactly. Not like that.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. So yeah, it'd be very easy.
Trump and Kamala get in a Mexican standoff and shoot each other, and you're like, "That's not the news I thought was going to happen."
Didn't have that on my bingo card. Yeah.
Yep. Forrest, you got anything coming up?
Nope, just hanging out.
Well, I was gonna say KT's gonna be on. I don't know what the TV station is. He's gonna be on the news tomorrow too, talking about that Nosferatu show.
Yeah, and I should have the link. I'm pretty sure I have the link to get tickets for that in the description for this. And if I don't, I'll add it.
Nice.
I'm trying to change our link in bio thing, so now it's the Marta.
So you can have.
I'm doing that line.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah.
I thought it was so you can put something else in the bio, but.
So I can put pussy in bio, man.
I was just gonna imply it, but
my bio is like, we got white pussy, we got black pussy, we got Asian pussy, we got.
You know what would make a great TikTok video is having meow every time we say pussy over it because we can't say that.
We got meow. We got meow. It's like
it sounds like the Meow Mix theme song suddenly.
It's like bleeping out the inappropriate words.
Yeah.
The Cheech Marin remix of the Meow Mix commercial. Meow 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 meow.
Man, Marta's gonna hear this and bail out of the after party. That's not true. Oh yeah, I guess we should mention that. Martin McFly, Marta Jovovich is coming on the after party tonight after this very show. And we're going to do a 16-round elimination bracket to figure out what we're going to be doing with her next month on Moving Extravaganza. And we've never done anything like it. She's awesome, and it should be a great time. So, plan accordingly.
Final thoughts, right?
Yep. Kristina, what are your final thoughts?
This is a very interesting film. Unlike anything, we don't really see much genre switching when it comes to horror films. And I feel like this is the defining movie that does that perfectly. And I think more movies need to explore with this type of like genre switching. And I feel like this is probably one of a good Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, movie. Probably my favorite Robert Rodriguez film, besides like, Spy Kids, because I'm a millennial. If you're someone who's like, I want to watch more vampire movies, please add this to your list. It's at first you're like, really? But then it gets you real fast.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily like really, because I feel like it's a great Tarantino movie for like the first like half of it. It's like a solid one. There's like so much action and like back and forth, and then on top, like the vampires are almost like icing on the cake by that point.
Yes.
On the blood cake.
Conan, you got some final thoughts? I know you do.
I do. Yeah. I said a lot of it, but I agree with Kristina. It's one of the great genre switch ups, right? So you got like a grindhouse, vulgar, classic vampire monster thing going on, and then you also got a top dialogue heavy crime thriller. Not very often you get to have those things exist in the same world with the same characters. I've seen this at least 4 times. Including in the theater, where I was genuinely surprised by the turn of events. Hard to overstate how differently it hit than what else was happening at the time, which largely was the Tom Cruise interview with the vampire.
Yeah.
Not cool, not romantic. These are savage and feral beasts. What's that?
Bram Stoker's Dracula too. 4 years.
Yeah, this is. I mean, this is significantly after that. This is that was still like in the zeitgeist, but this is long enough that like whatever. One was like when I was early in high school, and one was after I graduated. So for me, it was a long time. But these are the feral, savage beast vampires, right? And you mentioned earlier that Harvey Keitel is like a gentle and caring father here, which is a great role for him. Yeah. George Clooney has endless charisma, even as a tattooed, like tough guy psychopath.
Somehow more charisma as a tattooed psychopath.
I think Tarantino deserves a shout out for being like a detestable rapist. Like, I mean, he's horrible, and he does a great job in the movie as this role. To be explicitly clear, do not clip that out of context, please.
That's
Thank
what
you.
I was thinking. I was like,
do not do that.
Well, at least no one's watching this on Twitch, so
do not. I remember being really annoyed by him at the time in this role, and I can now recognize that being that hateable is actually a very strong skill. Love Tom Savini, Fred Williamson in here, Salma Hayek. I don't need to say anything, right? We get it. I think there's a lot of great.
Maybe saying something would would get you canceled.
Yeah, that would be it. She's
I can
lovely.
get away with it because I'm a woman.
Absolutely. I think there's great homages to the Evil Dead franchise, Dead Alive and / Brain Dead, whichever one you prefer. Bad Taste, all that early Peter Jackson stuff, and it's definitely kind of a weird uncle for things like 30 Days of Night. And I think that I don't acknowledge any sequels or the TV show, but I'm really glad that we covered
the what?
This. Yeah.
Huh? What?
But
when are they making that?
That this kind of like American splatter film, right? Like is kind of chasing the tail always of like now because of Peter Jackson, like the New Zealand variety, like the Weta software that we were talking about
that's right.
with Lord of the Rings. Like they literally copied that for Walking Dead. Like they have their own version now that's an American TV version of it.
Which is funny because and then the fight scenes in here, it's like, okay, you literally just have like 30 guys and gals like dressed up in like, makeup in a dimly lit bar.
People, one thing that blew me away that I found out, people go real fucking hard on Reddit deciding whether the Weta software or the one that they did for Walking Dead, whether those are better softwares. I dug in deep to like some crazy like thread that was just people being like, well, I work in TV and I think that it's better, it's easier to use. And I was like, oh, you guys are really going hard on this.
We got a lot of thoughts about it. Yeah, so there you go. And don't forget to check out the after party. It's going to be a good one. We're gamifying it, so join us. It should be a good time.
We've been gamified.
What do you mean gamified?
Gamified.
All right. Well, pussy.